playback link for last night if you missed it. And you can sign up and join us this evening. And I know you will not be sorry. I was so happy that I was able to be there to listen to what he had to say, because it was really fascinating. And not only that, it was really very educational, especially when it comes to the realities, that we face at this time and all of the press and concerns of the world. And we want to look at all of that, and we kind of want to read into that. We want to read into that what we know about the end times and say, oh, look, here, that's what this means. That's what that means. That's what this means. That's not the way to read sacred scripture. We read out of it, not into it, right? But nonetheless, it's important to say that there are signs. There are considerations. There are situations and circumstances that occur that would lead us to think if this was the end times. So all of that being said, I know you're going to enjoy it. Please do sign up if you haven't. We have a lot of people with us. We had people signing up even last night. So I invite you to sign up if you haven't. We're going to leave that registration open all week because we really think that this is a very, very important topic and we don't want you to miss it. And we will send you the playback links so you'll have the opportunity to view it at your leisure. So do get out there to our website, womenofgrace.com. It's advertised for you there in the slideshow, and also it's featured underneath our upcoming events on the homepage. Both places, if you click on them, will take you to a landing page. You can read about what's going on, but you can also click there and you can register. So all kinds of good things happen at Women of Grace. Want to say I'm so looking forward to next weekend. Next weekend, June 11th, well, it's the Friday, I am going to be at the Heart of Jesus Catholic Church in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That is the Feast of the Sacred Heart, and we are going to be celebrating the Sacred Heart in a beautiful, beautiful way. It's going to begin with a procession of the Blessed Sacrament at 12 noon, Holy Sacrifice of the Mass following, lunch after that, and I'll be giving a keynote talk right there around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Certainly do want for you to join us. So if you are in Florida, just make your way to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and join us at Heart of Jesus Catholic Church. Again, all of the information is available for you on our website. You can register on our website. So I invite you to get on out there and do that. We want to have a beautiful crowd that day. It is a fundraiser for the church, and that makes me very, very excited. So, what do I want to say? In a certain way, you're fulfilling one of your requirements as a baptized Catholic, and that's to know the faith, right? To study that faith. You'll be fulfilling that. You'll also be participating in a corporal work of mercy, right? Because your registration fee and everything, 100% of it goes to the church. So we're certainly inviting you to join us there. We're looking forward to having you with us at Heart of Jesus Catholic Church, June 11th, beginning at 12 noon, with a procession of the Blessed Sacrament in downtown Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on a very pretty, pretty piece of land. And I can tell you what, it's going to be a beautiful way to celebrate the Feast of the Sacred Heart. So get on out there and check it out. You hear that music, it means we're going to a break. When we come back, Sue Brinkman will be with us on this very wacky Wednesday. We'll be talking about anything wacky you want to talk about too. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. Or go out to EWTN Radio's YouTube channel or Facebook page. You can leave your questions and your comments, your insights, inspirations, and words of encouragement right there too. Coming right back at you. Stay with us.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
We've started doing these shows, Call In if you're an atheist, Call In if you want to redefine marriage. Those are the kind of shows that make very engaging radio. We're going to continue to try to reach out to the fringes and find those people who fundamentally disagree with us. And we're going to continue to create shows that are going to reach out to those people to draw them in to the fullness of the truth.
Catholic Answers Live, tonight, 6 Eastern on EWTN Radio.
Hi, everyone. It's Johnnette Williams, and I want to personally invite you to join me in South Florida to celebrate the Feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus at Heart of Jesus Catholic Church. The day includes a procession with the Blessed Sacrament and Mass, a beautiful luncheon, and my presentation, Journeying into Love at the Hearts of Jesus and Mary. To register, call 954-522-3939 or go to our website, womenofgrace.com. Hope to see you there in Fort Lauderdale.
60 on 10 with Monsignor Charles Pope.
The third commandment, remember to keep holy the Sabbath day. You know, of all the commandments, it might seem that we would get this one right. After all, it commands us to rest one day. But so often we're off to our own pursuits. God asks us to take one day to stop, reflect, rejoice, spend time with Him and with our family. But so often we're running everywhere else. It's also a day for worship. The book of Leviticus says, 6 days work shall be done, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest and a holy convocation. You shall do no work. It is the Sabbath of the Lord. And the book of Hebrews says that we should not neglect to meet together, as is a habit of some. And so again, we're asked by God to spend time reflecting and worshiping, and likewise spend time with our family. The third commandment, remember to keep holy the Sabbath day.
For more about the 10 Commandments, visit EWTNRC.com.
Encouraging women in their gift of authentic femininity. Here's more Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We're so happy to have you with us today. We certainly are, and we're inviting you to join us today on the air here. And you can do that by giving us a call on our toll-free number if you're in North America. It's 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That is the way that you can join us here on Women of Grace Live. We do love having that holy conversation with you. We've got Sue Brinkman with us. She is in the house. Why? Because it is Wacky Wednesday, and she's with us every Wednesday to talk about all these wacky things out there, because we don't want to get tripped up. We don't want to find ourselves, just wandering off to myths and fables like St. Paul writes to Timothy, to beware of these things. There's going to be false teachers teaching you false doctrine. You're going to get into a heap of trouble if you go in that direction. And so like St. Paul, we want to warn you about the different things that we need to be aware of and avoid. So Sue, welcome. It's good to have you with us.
Oh, I'm glad to be back, and I'm feeling wackier than ever. So ready for this show.
Well, it's very important, because we continue to see the way in which popular culture just gravitates toward these new agey, occult, esoteric practices and belief systems. And, it just seems to be gaining a real foothold. And I think it's because we're letting go of the genuine. When you let go of the genuine, the counterfeit comes in and takes its place. So people today, we live in a rather godless nation. And by that, I don't mean necessarily the people in a nation. I mean the culture of the nation. And when you let go of that, something's going to come in and replace it. Nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the spiritual world. So, in pops all of this crazy stuff that goes on. And we've got some crazy stuff. Sue's got an article out there. You got to go out there and read this. It's on, is ancestral healing okay for Catholics? This is something that, has gained a lot of attention because Meghan Markle is involved in this thing.
Yes, Meghan Markle actually introduced her husband, Prince Harry, to it. This all came out on with the Oprah on the docuseries that's going on. And it's to be healed from generational trauma. And she learned this really from her mother, Doria Ragland. And Doria used to take Meghan to Agape International. These were what they call weekly services there. They don't call it church. It's not that at all. And a guy by the name of Michael Beckwith is who promotes this stuff. And he refers to what he believes and what he teaches as New Thought, Ancient Wisdom. Mm-hmm. And in a nutshell, what it is a non-denominational spirituality that it recognizes the reality of a God, but he's not necessarily called Jesus. He could be called Great Spirit, Hashem, Allah. I mean, it's all different things. He's also influenced very much by Emanuel Swedenborg, Transcendentalism of Ralph Waldo Emerson. Transcendentalism is a big deal right now. This is what people are doing. They're practicing Transcendentalism when they say, well, I'm spiritual and not religious. They want to go their own way. That's what Transcendentalism is. They want to go their own way. They want to use their own intuition to find their way in things. They don't need religion and anything written down. They're just going to do it on their own. And we see that. That's exactly what's going on right now. And ancestral healing kind of fits into all this. It's one of Beckwith's mishmash of beliefs. It's kind of a part of that. And it's a process. He calls it ancestral lineage healing. And it's spiritually grounded, he says, and it's a ritual process. And it empowers you to connect, repair, and nurture relationships with your wise and loving ancestors. And the way you do this is you use ritual, guided trance, dream work, in order to make contact with your relatives, your deceased relatives. And there's no prerequisites, he said, to this. The only thing you need is prior experience with inner work and relation with spirit guides. So, right there is another big red flag in this one. And a lot of this came from a pioneer in the field called Dr. Daniel Four. And he actually is, he is a doctor of psychology. But he kind of is combining this with what he says is 25 years of experience implementing the teachings of Earth and ancestor reverence in his personal life.
Mm.
Yeah, he calls himself a cisgendered white American ritualist who's focused on helping others to reclaim their innate capacity. This is the lingo they use. Reclaim your innate capacity to relate with their ancestors and with the greater web of other than human kin. So I thought, okay, let's think that one through for a few minutes. Well, only took me 30 seconds to get through that one. But anyway, and I just tell it at the end of the blog, listen, I could go on, but I think you're getting the idea. No, this is a pagan practice. It flirts with necromancy, and that combination makes it off limits to Christians. Do not get involved in ancestral healing, no matter who is out there telling you that it's okay to do it. It's not.
Yeah. This fascination with the dead is really rather an amazing thing to me, because when we were together last week, you were talking about this idea of grave soaking, where people lay down on the graves of individuals and try to, through some kind of trance-like situation, call up, the talents, the gifts, the characteristics of the individual, so they believe that they can in some way be empowered by these practices that they do. And, the sad reality is that we do have a great respect for those who have passed on before us. And in a certain way, this is like a counterfeit of the whole notion of praying for our deceased loved ones. It's a counterfeit of our notion of purgatory. It's a counterfeit of our reverence for those who have passed on, because they are sons and daughters of the Most High God. So, this takes it and turns it on its head and brings a really unholy aspect to things that, in and of themselves, have a tradition within the church. And with regard to what you're saying here about this ancestral healing, what about the sins that are passed down through generations? There are sins that are passed down through generations, right? And we know that there is a body of work within the church where we look at generational sins and see if there is something that we can do to break that chain. I'm going to give you some examples. We know that alcoholism, for example, runs in families, right? We know oftentimes that sexual abuse runs in families. We know sometimes that a spirit of sloth runs through a family. So these are things that get passed down, by way of nurture, but also by way of just temperament that is hereditary. So there is a place for appropriate healing, and within the church we've got the means for that. And generally those kinds of things take place in the holy sacrifice of the Mass. But this takes something that is a good and turns it on its head and makes it an evil.
Exactly. You know what the difference is between the two of them? When we do our ancestral healing of sins, of the sins that were passed down through our lineage, we don't contact our dead to do that.
That's
we
exactly
go to
right.
the church,
Right.
But in here, what they're talking about is you're actually getting in touch with and then repairing your relationships with your dead relatives and that sort of thing. So they're actually talking about necromancy. And for
Yeah.
people who don't know that, Johnnette, and they don't understand really what necromancy is, they don't understand how impossible it is for the dead to speak to them, they're going to fall right into that trap because it's something that looks so mysterious and wow, I only want to try this, and not realizing the danger that they're walking themselves into, because you can be permanently infested by whatever spirits are masquerading as your deceased Uncle Joe, and you're not going to be a happy camper until someone can come along and help you from that. And that it will have to be a Catholic priest who can free you from that kind of an infestation. You just don't fool around in the supernatural without knowing what you're
Mm-mm.
doing.
No, absolutely not. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. It's the toll-free number for you to use right here on Women of Grace Live. We enjoy hearing from you all of the time. Do want to let you know, too, we're available for you out there at EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Just use the chat feature there. Jeff Burson will dash on out there, and he will retrieve it and get it up on the board, and we'll be able to address whatever your thoughts or ideas are, your questions, your comments, your insights, your inspirations, your words of encouragement. I think that that's the biggest thing, and why it is that we consider this to be so important. And we've been presenting, on the topic of the New Age and the occult for, I don't know, decades now. Why is it so important? Because we don't want people to get trapped. We don't want ourselves to find, the great realities that attend to these things and then need to be freed from them. And, I'm thinking, Sue, there's that beautiful passage, I think it's Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, where the God speaks to his prophet and says, "My people perish for lack of knowledge." We don't want
Hmm.
people to perish for lack of knowledge. We want people to know. So if you have any questions today that you want answers for on this topic, we will do our very best to answer it, whether it's on this ancestral healing or something related, anything having to do with the occult or the New Age, anything having to do with Eastern Oriental mysticism. We're eager to hear from you. 833-288 EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. So this is bad stuff. You talk about necromancy. Why don't you define that for us?
Necromancy is the practice of contacting and calling up the dead. What it looks like these days is channelers and
Mm-hmm.
mediums, like the
Mm-hmm.
Long Island medium. We say, I see dead people. I can speak to the dead people. I can call up your uncle Joe, and I can help you to have closure after his death. This is how they kind of paint that picture of very consoling. It's a comforting thing to do. They're helping you to get over the death of your loved one. They're reassuring you that they're okay. They make it look very good. Some of them even say that they're praying the rosary, and that
Mm-hmm.
some of them even say they're channeling saints.
I
There's
know.
actually some other who say they're channeling, say, "Oh, I channel Saint Rita," or I channel Saint Therese. The minute you hear them say that, head for the exit. Get out of there, because saints do not allow themselves to be channeled. So that doesn't happen. But yeah, people, they're falling into a trap because, Johnnette, they just don't know. They don't have the information. And I would have to say the vast majority of the people who write to us, they are sincerely wanting the truth. They have
Yes.
gone to the trouble to sit down and write an email to say, "Sue and Johnnette, my family's getting involved in this. What is this about? Is this okay?"
Yes.
And yeah, and I'm thinking, most of them do. Now, we get the hate mail,
Oh, yes.
but it's a small fraction of the mail that we get here. Most people are sincerely looking for that truth. They want the education in it. And so I'm happy that we're doing what we're doing. That's what keeps us going, really is all the people who write to us and who tell us that thank you for doing this and for answering our questions, because we don't know where else to go to get the answers for it. So um, it really is an important thing to explain to people, especially about that necromancy, because it's becoming very big. And I don't know
Yes.
why right now it's as big as it is. I can't really put my
I don't know.
finger on it. Why people are so fascinated with death, other than it's because it's a byproduct of the culture of death. That's just everywhere in our culture right now, and all of our
That's interesting.
morality. It's
That's a
where
really
is it
interesting
coming from?
connection, you know?
Where is it coming from?
I
Why
don't
are they
know.
so obsessed with this death and contacting people who are dead and what happens to me after I'm dead? Um, it's just it's something that's very pervasive right now out there.
And you know what? It's interesting because, we kind of began by talking about, how these things are counterfeits. So, we know that in a certain way, this is a counterfeit of the communion of saints, because our loved ones who have passed before us, right? We have an immortal soul, right? So, our loved ones who passed before us, hopefully, are in the church triumphant, saints in heaven, or they're in the church suffering, which would be the souls in purgatory. And there is a connection there, you know, but it's not this kind of a connection. It's the connection that takes place through the mystical body of Christ. So we can pray for our loved ones, and it's efficacious for them. They, the deceased loved ones, can pray for us, and it's efficacious for us. They can't pray for themselves anymore. But, oftentimes I'll get people who will ask me, well, my mom passed away and we were not in a good place, right? And so the question is, can that be healed? Well, frankly, it has to be healed. It has to be healed because the loved one who might be in purgatory could suffer until Jesus comes again if forgiveness is not resolved within them toward the daughter or the son. And vice versa, if we take that lack of forgiveness to our death, physical death, then we're going to have to get that sorted out. So there is a way through prayer, not through channeling, not through calling them up, but sitting there before the Eucharistic presence of our Lord, or in a state of recollection in light of him, and just saying, Lord, this happened. Mom and I were in a bad place together when she passed away, and I feel so badly about this, and I want this to be healed. I want this to be healed between us. And then we can just say, I forgive my mother for everything that she did that caused me such angst. And I ask you, Mom, to forgive me. That's not calling people up from the dead. It's not evoking a spirit, right? So the subtleties are slight, but oh my goodness, the chasm between them is terrific.
It really is. And I think what happens is the evil one, he plays upon that hunger in all of us to know God. Is it Edith Stein who said, everyone who is seeking is looking for God, whether they realize it or not. And that's something that I think everybody has within them. And maybe their desire to contact the afterlife is their search for that meaning, for that, I want a place to go. I've taken
Right.
God out of my life, God and his promise of heaven, but I kind of still want the heaven part, I
Yep.
want to have a good place to go. So isn't that coming from their hunger for God and for the
Yeah.
eternity that he offers us? And I think that a lot of that stuff is all connected, but we're very confused people spiritually right now because we've
That's
gotten
right.
out into this transcendentalism type, hey, touchy feely. If it feels good, just go ahead and do it. Doesn't matter if it's coming from Satan. Who cares? Hey, maybe he's our friend after all. I mean, I see stuff like this out there. People talking about him that way. Like, well, you know what? Doesn't feel that bad. He's kind of nice to me. He helps me out. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
scary. It's
Very
scary because it
scary.
shows that, in some way they've already set up a relationship with him, and that's really, really scary
Mm,
stuff. And,
yes.
I think that you've struck on something very important there too, and that is that we live in a very relativistic culture. So, we want to believe what we want to believe the way that we believe it. And if it feels good, do it. And there's no consequence for that. So we want heaven, but we don't want to walk the narrow road that leads there. We want the wide road of perdition in this life and the joy of eternal bliss and ultimate happiness in heaven. It just doesn't work that way. That's not the
No,
way it happens.
it isn't going to do it. It isn't going to do it. You got to be with Jesus. He's the one who's going to bring you there.
That's exactly right. 833-288-EWTN. That is the toll-free number for you to use today on this Wacky Wednesday with Sue Brinkman. 833-288-3986. Also inviting you to use EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. If you're outside of North America, you can use this number. It's country code 1-205-271-2985. We're going to be taking your questions following the break that we're headed out towards right now. So we invite you to stay with us, pick up the phone, give us a call. We're here for you. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
Do you love Catholic radio? Tell us how it's been beneficial to your faith by calling 205-795-5773 and leaving us a message. That's 205-795-5773.
It's time for Family Man with Dr. Gregory Popchak.
You've heard it said that children are resilient, but it turns out that's not as true as we might like to think. A study in the journal Clinical Neuroimaging reports that children who experienced common family stressors like a lack of affection, marital problems, or poor communication experienced less development in the brain regions responsible for impulse control and stress regulation than did children who were raised in homes without similar stressors. The study is a wake-up call for moms and dads to attend to marriage and parenting struggles promptly. Currently, many couples wait 4 to 6 years before getting professional help. Knowing the effect that marriage and family stress has on our children's developing brains can hopefully encourage parents to get help sooner rather than later. To encourage good impulse control and stress management in our kids, the most important parenting technique is providing our children with a loving, affectionate, peaceful home life. I'm Dr. Greg Popchak, but you can call me Family Man.
To discover more ways faith can enrich your life, visit CatholicCounselors.com.
EWTN, teaching the truth.
Thank you so very much, first of all, for this ministry. You have no idea what a blessing you and EWTN have been in my life and for my life, and I just thank you for that.
Well, first off, I'd like to say God bless you for your ministry, and my wife prayed daily for EWTN. It's a game changer in our world.
EWTN. Live truth. Live Catholic.
Tomorrow on More to Life, peace be with you.
Feeling worried or anxious will help you increase the peace in your life.
That's tomorrow on More to Life. Now back to Women of Grace.
Transforming the world one woman at a time. Let's return to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm so happy you're with us today. I certainly am. We do want to hear from you, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That is our toll-free number. And it is a Wacky Wednesday. Sue Brinkman is with us today. We're talking about wacky things. What wacky thing is going on in your world today? What are you seeing out there that you would like to have more information about as to whether or not it is acceptable and within the guidelines that we have through Holy Mother Church? Very important stuff we're talking about today. And so we've got Tony. Tony has been very patient holding for us in Sioux City, Iowa. And Tony is with us via Siouxland Catholic Radio. Good morning. How are you, Tony?
Hey, good. Thanks for taking my call. I just had a question that I've been wondering about for a little while. I work in an office environment. And I do have a coworker who I've noticed that he or she has it's almost set up like a little shrine almost on his or her desk. It's like there are a couple of very small, very miniature, like gold-colored statues of the Buddha, and then right next to that there's a little like bowl with, I guess you'd call them crystals or something like that in there, and the crystals they're small, they're like peg-shaped or in the shape of like small obelisks, if that makes sense. There's something like that. And they're maybe just a couple inches long, maybe only a centimeter thick. And then next to those are some, maybe like 3 dice, and the dice are not like what you would normally use to play Yahtzee or something like that. They're instead of being six-sided, these are like, oh man, I mean, maybe they're 12-sided. They're just very odd-looking dice, like something you think you might even use to play like a Dungeons and Dragons type game or something. And I just wanted to know, is it possible this coworker is doing some kind of like divining, or what might be going on there?
This certainly sounds like that to me. She's doing a lot. The crystals in themselves, the crystals are just glorified talismans. You know, people use them. They believe that crystals absorb the energy of everything that ever touched it, and that if you hold the crystal, that you will then absorb all of those energies into you. They sometimes will use crystals to clear the air in a room. They clear the energy in a room to bring positive energy or attract positive energy. And of course, that energy doesn't exist, so you don't have to worry about that. But as far as her having those dice and the little figurines there of Buddha, it sounds to me as if she does have a little shrine. She might be calling upon these different spirits to aid her in her work. What you would need to do in that case is, because she could be calling spirits down into that place. We all know that she can't call down the Buddha. Demons hide behind these other gods, the Buddhist and Hindu gods. They hide behind them, and they come when they're called. And what you need to do is make sure you're always in a state of grace around that person. And also, I would just be careful if she's ever doing anything right there in the middle of the office with people. You may want to talk to your supervisor about that, because it's a religious practice, and there are certain laws about that. The civil rights legislation from back in the 1970s has something in it about that. you might want to talk to that person about, let's, if I can't do my spirituality, I can't sit here and pray a rosary in the middle of my desk. I don't think people should be calling down spirits. But I'm not sure what your whole situation is like there, Tony. I would just say to you that you need to make sure you stay in a state of grace. And then you have nothing really to worry about because God will take care of you. He protects his own. He knows how to do that. And whatever she's calling down is no match for him. So you'll be on the safe side by staying in a state of grace.
Yeah, and it wouldn't hurt, I think to maybe, have some holy water there, just to bless your work area, and to have some blessed salt there that you just kind of, put around the perimeter of your office or your cubicle, however that's set up. But the other thing with regard to this, I think is important is what Sue's bringing out here. I mean, if you were to bring in, say, a statue of the Blessed Mother, right? And you were to adorn that statue with flowers, or you were to, have anything else there that is very, very much a part and connected with our Catholic faith, somebody would say something, I think, pretty quickly, right? But it seems as though when it comes to these false spiritualities, their restrictions do not apply. Anything goes. And that's troubling. So I would mention it, although if you do mention it to a boss and they take action on it, then that kind of does close down the possibility, for anyone else to be able to have a holy card, for example, or an image of our Lord or a crucifix at their desk. So, but that's always fascinated me, Sue, is that other people can have all of these artifacts related to whatever belief system they might find themselves in at the moment. But if you are a Catholic, you cannot do that. If you're a Christian, you can't have a cross hanging there. So,
oh, sure. Yeah.
Does all of that help you, Tony?
Yeah, and you're spot on about the suspicions of the double standard. I mean, I think that is sadly the state of a lot of workplaces now, especially with major corporations. That certainly didn't escape me when I started thinking about this. I thought, that's pretty ironic. I mean, there are, I'm sure if I had something Catholic, that would be seen as not appropriate. I can't say that, for me, I can't say that it particularly bothers me that the coworker has these things because, like you said, I don't think I have anything to worry about. But I mean, personally, as long as I'm in a state of grace and doing what I need to be doing as a Catholic. But yeah, I do get the impression that, I don't know, when we do have more coworkers move back in, the office is still in a transition of, I think, bringing everybody back in after being home for COVID-19 restrictions and rules and all that. It could be a thing where this coworker might kind of put these things away or not put them out so publicly. I think he or she might have been doing this because they're really, it's kind of a ghost town in our office. There's like practically nobody in there. It's just me, and I'm way up at the front desk. So that could be part of it too, But yeah, I certainly get the impression that if I had, even the smallest crucifix, that I would definitely feel very much at risk for my standing, both with my employment a little bit. I mean, I don't think they'd fire me, but I guess it's certainly something I wouldn't do. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Well, if you feel a little, what do I want to say? If you feel a little frisky and wanting to evangelize, you could ask her to tell you about these things, right? You might be able to shed some light on it for her. Sue has a fantastic book that EWTN Religious Catalog carries, and it's called Compendium of the New Age. And it can give you a lot of information and insight on a variety of topics here that you would be able to present to her, as well as any of the articles that are out there on the blog. But you would want to read up on that a little bit. I think a lot of people are seriously searching, as Sue mentioned, and they just don't know where to go to get the truth. And again, an amazing thing that I find absolutely odd and disturbing is that when people are on a search, they immediately discount Christianity. And I don't know why that is, when it is the fact, it is the way. It is the truth. It is the life. Tony, thank you for your call today. Really appreciate hearing from you. And we invite you to call us too, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. So we have Jen out there. She's on YouTube. She says, perhaps popularity of necromancy comes from not only the culture of death, but from the desire to blame others, the dead, for our own failings, shortcomings, and or perceived cultural, I can't read that one word, problems or ills.
Ills, yeah,
Okay.
it looks like ills, yeah. Oh, sure. I'm sure that's exactly right, Jen. I'm sure that plays into it as well. They're looking for somebody to blame. They don't want to blame themselves because, hey, there's no sin anymore, right? Nobody's sinning. So I do believe that. I do believe that those are very strong components in this whole leaning toward the afterlife and this obsession with not only the afterlife but contacting beings that are in the afterlife. They're taking it even a step further. So yeah, Jen, I appreciate that comment because I think you're spot on about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. And the whole concept here, of this blaming others, one of the things that we have to be very, very wary of when we are receiving any kind of psychological counseling is the fact that it is good to unearth perhaps the genesis of an issue so that we can deal with the issue in a way that's related to the cause. But that's not the end of the journey. Uncovering it is not the end of the journey. Uncovering it only means that now you have a choice. You can act out of that, or you can choose to act opposite that. So you can't say, this happened to me, therefore it's okay if I act like this. Well, the reason why I act like this is because of my, Aunt Bessie, and she was into all of this stuff, and I know that this is all my problem now. And then we just sit there with that. And it gives us an excuse to behave any way that we want to behave.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the problem. You got to go to the next step. And psychotherapy cannot generally take you to the next step. Only God can take you to the next step. So it's an important thing to consider. Yeah. So anyway, let's get to JJ. JJ is in Michigan. She's listening to us via Sirius XM Station 130. First time caller. That lets me do this. Ring my first time caller bell for you, JJ. How are you?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm well. How are you, ladies?
Good.
Very well, thank you.
I have a question. Speaking from, it's something I've always been curious of. A lot of cultures, Middle Eastern and European, have, cultural traditions of warding off an evil eye. And so, like Italians wear a horn. A lot of Middle Eastern people will wear, and I don't think it's necessarily just Muslim, but as I said, more cultural than religion. Wearing the horn to ward off the evil eye, wearing a shape of an eye to ward off the evil eye. So if somebody gives you the evil eye, you are protected. And that evil eye, from everything I've heard, is, if somebody is jealous of you or would wish any ill on you. Now, obviously, we know there's evil in this world. We know there are terrible people who would wish ill. Do you think does the evil eye exist? Obviously, these symbols, the things you wear, we have God that protects us. It's not something that you wear needs to protect us. But I guess my question is, does the evil eye exist? Can people wish you ill by being jealous or by wishing harm, and can that actually affect you?
That's a very good question, JJ. And the evil eye, as it is not just a matter of someone being jealous of you. It takes it a step further. The evil eye is a curse. It's a form of a curse. And curses are very real. Curses they're extremely real because they call upon the power of evil in order to be enacted. So, and yes, in the Middle Eastern cultures, they almost a whole cottage industry of different things that they use, like the hamsa hand, and as you said, the Italian horn, different amulets to protect them from the evil eye. But that's like protecting, you're relying on the culprit to protect you from the culprit. So you can tell how that's not going to work. That's just not going to cut it. But the evil eye is real. It is real. It is looking upon a person and cursing that person that you are looking upon. And there's information about the evil eye, very good information, in the book by Father Gabriel Amorth. An exorcist tells his story, and he has a second volume as well. And that really make the hair on your arm stand up, reading some of those stories about curses. They are very real, and they're some of the major major instances that exorcists have to deal with are people who are trying to be released from curses. This is another reason why you want to stay in a state of grace, because remember, God's in charge of Satan. He can't just run around cursing anybody he wants. All right. So you make sure that you're in that state of grace, that you're in right relationship with God, because he's the one who's going to protect you. No ham, no Italia horn is going to do what God can do for you. So just stay right with God, and you don't have to worry about curses. Wear blessed objects. Keep them on you at all times, but not because you're using them as a good luck charm to ward off evil. Well, that's because you're believing in the power who is God, who offers you his protection. So, I kind of hate to break the news, but the evil eye is real. It really is real.
Well, I always thought, yes, people can certainly wish you harm and do whatever, but that we have God that protects us, and it's not about a medallion or a token, much like you leave. But you just, sometimes you encounter people where you go, I know this person wishes me ill, sadly. And yes. It's a little... It's scary sometimes, because then if something bad or unfortunate happens, you go, oh my gosh, is this that?
Yes.
But it's also, sometimes in life, unfortunate things happen. So you don't want to go crazy.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. What would you say?
Go ahead, Joanne. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you, Sue, what would be some ways in which we could discern the difference? Because I think that JJ brings up something very, very important. I mean, we don't want to blame everything on the devil. Because we live in a broken and fallen world, and bad things do happen because we live in disorder and chaos. It's not according to God's plan. And even if we are very, very faithful to our Lord, and we're living a life pursuing holiness, we still know that bad things happen to good people, right? God wants to work good out of the bad. That's what he promises us in Romans 8:28 through Paul. But he also tells us that, throughout the Old Testament to his people, and we see it through the New Testament too, through the words of our Lord. So, but there are some individuals who really are suffering under an oppressive spirit, or an obsessing spirit. So how do we discern the difference between the two?
If it doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I discern it, because, well, the kind of mail that I get here, and I have had people directly tell me they're cursing me.
Oh, I know. I mean,
yeah,
we
both
had curses, pulled off of us.
And I've had instances where for days on end, my mind, it tends to affect me mentally. Like I can't focus the way I normally can focus. And whenever that happens and it's consecutive and it's not going away, like, is that because I didn't sleep well, or I didn't eat right that day, or whatever, I had a lot on my mind. If it's consecutive and it just keeps going on and on and on and on, then I know it's time to sit down and pray, go to our Lord. And I often rely on Father Ripperger's book, Deliverance Prayers, and I just go in there and I recite some of those prayers.
Mm-hmm.
To release myself from any kind of curse or bondage or evil that's been leveled against me. And you know what? I feel better almost instantly. The rosary is another thing. I just pick up my rosary and I say to Our Lady, I think something's happened. Somebody's kind of put something on me. The Lord's allowed it. But I'm going to use my faith now. I'm going to use it as an exercise of faith, and I'm going to turn to you and ask you if you could please intercede for me, Mother. And through this rosary, I would like to pray for freedom from this. And he always answers you. I mean, he's always going to help you with it. Once in a while that happens. I would say maybe five or six times in the last 10 years, I've had that happen to me. And I've just assumed that it was a curse of some kind. And the Lord allowed a little bit of that to come in there. Of course, God measures everything. And whatever he might allow to happen to you, it's only what you can withstand. And you use it as an act of faith and as a way to strengthen yourself and become stronger. And you do.
Yeah. And that's one of the great goods that God works out of these situations that occur, is that our faith is strengthened. We grow in trust of him. And I would say too, that if this is a longstanding issue, the person might want to seek help through the sacrament of confession, or they might want to go to a priest who is known for deliverance prayer. You don't have to rush off to an exorcist right away. That's the extreme, and very few people are possessed according to the exorcist. More people are possessed today than they have been in the past. But the number is still minuscule among those that are troubled in other ways by these other kinds of demonic activities. So, and that the prayers that they can pray with you and for you through the reality of their gift of grace through holy orders is really quite profound. So start with, things as you say, Sue, and see how it goes. But I think that that's a really good telltale sign of the evil one. If it's not letting up, if it's getting worse, if it's consistent, then and you personally are not doing anything to bring it about, or there's no natural cause or explanation for it that you can figure out. So hope that helps you, Colleen, and thank you hope that helps you, JJ, and thank you for a very, very good question. We are going to go to Colleen now. She's in Frederick, Maryland this morning, and she is listening to us via Sirius XM station 130, and we're going to ring our bell because she is a first-time caller. Hello, Colleen.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. I just had a couple of quick points. The first one has to do with religious items at work. I happen to work for the federal government, and you'd actually be surprised at least on the federal side, I can't speak to private sector, but you'd actually be surprised on what you are allowed to have. I have prayer cards. On my desk, I have a Marian calendar from the Basilica, the Basilica's Marian calendar. And those are all completely okay to have.
Wonderful.
So and again, for that caller, I'm not sure where that person worked, and it's most likely in the private sector, and those rules are probably a little different. But I would definitely encourage them to look in and don't hold back from putting something on your desk just because you think you're going to be, ostracized for it or called out for it by your boss, because, that's when you get to say, look, if others get to put their, so-called spiritual things around, then I should be too. So it's either good for everyone or good for no one. That would be my only encouragement. My second point, and I keep losing it. When you mentioned, we were talking about why people are practicing necromancy so much, I had the thought that I think it's one of the last things that people can't assert control over. They can't control the past. You can control your perception of God. You can control your perception of your gender and everything else. But things that happen in the past and the dead are things that people cannot control. So I think it's some kind of you said different elements of this already, but trying to learn basically another way of learning about the afterlife, learning about, like you said, reparations for past sins or whatever, the ancestors. I don't know. I don't follow this stuff, but it seems to me that it's just one more thing that humans can't control. And if you're a believer in God, if you're a Christian, you know that, yes, we know we can't control that, and that's okay, because, God has a plan. He knows everything, and so will we when the time comes. But that was my idea on that. So.
Well, that's a really good one. It occurs to me, too, that it might also be a fear of death, So, So, Sue, I'm going to give you the last word. We've got 70 seconds left.
Oh, experts say that when things are out of control, people do tend to turn to magic and esoteric movements. So, Colleen, you're right on the money there, because they're searching for control. They're looking for control because they feel like things are out of control. So you're right about that. That's a very, very interesting point. Thank you for that.
Yeah, well, and Sue, thank you so much for being with us today on another Wacky Wednesday, and I'm looking forward. I'm going to be with Sue tomorrow. We're going to be taping 2 programs for Women of Grace television that will come up in the future, so you're going to want to stay tuned to Women of Grace and see when Sue appears there on television, as well as being with us every Wednesday right here on Women of Grace Live. We're looking forward to being with you again tomorrow. Until we have that wonderful opportunity, may God richly bless you. Bye-bye now.